Bonjour, Kinamage Nene Ireland Indigenous, and welcome to today's citizenship lesson. Today's focus, questions 6 through 10. Our first one today is, what is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? Examples of correct answers would include freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Let's check out this short video clip with more information.
My favorite, the Bill of Rights. Today we're going to be learning about the First Amendment. What is the First Amendment? The First Amendment was included in the first 10 amendments from the Bill of Rights. It was passed by Congress on September 25th, 1789. It was ratified December 15th, 1791. The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights contains 5 freedoms that Americans still treasure today. They are the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. I wonder what the First Amendment actually says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. In the midst of the second year of the American Revolutionary War, in 1776, the Virginia colonial legislature passed a Declaration of Rights that included the sentence, "The freedom of the press is one of the greatest bulwarks of liberty and can never be restrained but by evil governments." For the Constitution to be ratified, 9 of 13 states were required to approve it in state conventions. What do the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment provide? The freedom to petition maintains that individuals have the right to make their opinions known to elected officials. Oh, hi, Mr. President. The freedom of speech guarantees that individuals are free to express their opinions and their beliefs. Second President John Adams must have missed the memo, because as president, he tried to criminalize speaking out or criticizing the government. You can't do that. Why? It's a violation of the First Amendment. But just remember though, just because you're given the right to express your beliefs and your opinions does not mean that there's not consequences for what you say. Monitor your words carefully. The freedom of assembly protects the right of individuals that they may form in groups peacefully.
And you know what they say, stand for something or fall for anything.
But just remember, just because you're given the freedom of assembly, you need to remember that all assembly needs to be peaceful, or you can expect severe consequences. The freedom of the press guarantees that people have the right to gather public information. People can criticize the government. Try telling John Adams that. Author's purpose is easy as pie. What in the world am I talking about? Pie, P, persuade, I, inform, E, entertain. Sometimes radio, TV, books, movies, they all can do these things. Be aware of media bias. What is media bias? Make sure you're aware of whether or not a media publication is trying to persuade you or change your mind, inform you or teach you new information based on facts, or just entertaining you, just trying to make you laugh, make you cry. In the country of Iran, the form of government that they have is known as a theocracy. Religion and government are not separate entities in that country. In the United States, you're guaranteed the freedom of religion. The government may not establish or create an official religion. You can worship how you choose. You'll have to excuse me while I get my church on. La 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 la. Thanks for watching. Hey, connect with us. Check us out on Teachers Pay Teachers, Instagram, Facebook.
Now, have all these things been evenly applied throughout our history? Well, no. Especially when it comes to some of our ceremonies. But these are the First Amendment freedoms.
Ah, my favorite, the Bill of Rights.
How many amendments does the Constitution have? 27 amendments. That's the current number. But Mr. Ireland, you just talked about 10. You're right. The first 10 are known as the Bill of Rights. There were others that actually were suggested at the same time that didn't pass. Some constitutional amendments don't pass for centuries. Most do have a time where they can run out. It's entirely possible by the time that a few years go by, we could have 28 or 29. We never know. What did the Declaration of Independence do? It explained our reasoning for severing our colonial ties with Great Britain. And let's watch this little video clip.
The Declaration of Independence, for me, is one of the best pieces of writing I've ever seen.
It's a revolutionary document for a revolutionary statement.
You cannot help but be stirred when you read those words.
Thomas Jefferson's writing is absolutely magnificent. And when he wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." That was the first time anybody had bothered to write that down.
And then you turn the clock back and think of when he was writing, how young he was, what a statement it was given the history of the world at that point. And you feel the excitement of being on the cusp of something so profound that it's hard to put it into words.
If you review our Declaration of Independence, it has those beautiful words about all men are created equal and governments are formed among men to represent the people. It was a good statement of what we were all about. And that's the only thing people remember about the Declaration of Independence, that it was about all men are created equal. But it's really roughly a 28 count indictment against King George. And therefore, because of the way in which the British Crown treated us, we now declare that we are a free country, and we want to let you know why. Now, if we're going to have a war, we're going to have a war.
In 1776, you have the Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia, debating a unified position for the colonies with respect to the hostilities that have already broken out. And the fundamental issue between them is, are they fighting for their rights as Englishmen within the British Empire, or are they going to fight for independence? And they're seriously divided. People who are perfectly willing to resist the tyranny of the British government are not necessarily willing to strike for independence. But there's a groundswell in favor of it, I think, in large measure because they recognize that having provoked the lion this far, there's no going back.
All of a sudden, you have this group of people who are going, no, we're not part of some great chain of being with the king at the top of it. We are free people. We can vote for who we want to have in charge. And we're not going to tolerate you telling us that we have some class status we have to be trapped in. It says, we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, meaning that Parliament in London, the King himself, the courts cannot interfere and take away your rights because the state can't take power from us. Even to this day, it's probably the most central difference between America and every other country in the world.
It goes well beyond what was needed in order to declare independence. It establishes a philosophical basis for a civil democracy in which all persons are guaranteed rights by virtue of their personhood.
This political genius, not just in Jefferson, but in Adams and all the other people who collected here, they saw a new time for humankind, which is that we can be free and that we can make decisions for ourselves.
What are the three rights mentioned in the Declaration of Independence? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Those are three that you will need to remember. And as you saw in the video, there was a lot more to that document than life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the all men are created equal, which may not have been applied very evenly either at that time. What is freedom of religion? The right to choose what religion to follow and to worship without interference. Here, another video clip.
Freedom of religion. The First Amendment of the Constitution contains some of the most fundamental freedoms of our country, including freedoms of speech, press, protest, assembly, and last but not least, religion. Religious liberty is a fundamental component of our society, and the separation between church and state is what made the founding of America so revolutionary. Many, if not most colonists, came to the New World seeking religious tolerance and the freedom to worship as they chose. By the time of the American Revolution, there were many denominations and churches in the colonies, competing with one another. The founders believed the only way to prevent the new nation from being torn apart by religious factions was to sever ties between the state and churches. The First Amendment was ratified in 1791. Freedom of religion as outlined in the First Amendment is split into two parts. The Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And the Free Exercise Clause, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Basically, this language guaranteed that the government would have no official religion, nor would it prevent anyone from practicing their own beliefs. The phrase separation of church and state wasn't actually included in the Bill of Rights or the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson used the phrase in an 1802 letter to the Danbury Baptist Association. Well, in 1971, the Supreme Court in Lemon v. Kurtzman created a three-pronged criteria to ensure government policies or acts do not violate religious freedoms. First, a policy cannot have a religious purpose. Second, it cannot end up promoting or favoring any set of religious beliefs. And third, it cannot overly involve the government with religion. So how does that translate into the real world? It's probably best exemplified in our public schools, where neither teachers nor students are allowed to lead a class in prayer, because that would mean the school is promoting a particular religion above others. Educators can teach about religion in the context of history, but can't preach its tenets or beliefs. Religious extracurricular activities can take place, but they must be organized and run by students and be held during non-school hours. The Founding Fathers, based on the experience of their ancestors and their own beliefs, managed to forge a government whose freedoms are as important today as they were then. And freedom of religion continues to be one of the most important liberties that makes America, America. Freedom of religion.
We've reached the final slide here. Hopefully that gives you a quick overview of some of those questions. What I encourage you to do is to try out the Quizlet. That Quizlet will also be present on Wednesday's post. And then on Friday, take the quiz. I will mark which ones you have and touch base with you on the others, as it's ideal that you have a great understanding of what those elements of citizenship tests are, as you're not very far away from being the next leaders of our community. Have a minute, Gijigad. Meanwhile, I'm a P.